Hey, everybody. Welcome to the I'm a Man, I'm 40 podcast, the podcast no one asked for, where three middle-aged white guys discuss the same shit they've been talking about their entire lives. I'm Ryan. My goal for this podcast is to place 25 of the most popular films in movie history on an arbitrary and reductive list.
I'm Ryan's brother, Paul. I'm here for my hot takes.
And hot abs.
Ooh.
You can't see that on a podcast, guys. One of the limitations of the medium.
And I'm Chris, the self-proclaimed Bond historian. I'm here to give poorly researched internet opinions and to irrelevant things that no reasonable person would still care about in 2020.
Great, welcome, guys. It's so nice to have you guys here on the honorary, introductory, inaugural I'm a Man, I'm 40 podcast. Guys, why don't you tell me about your history with Bond? So for those of you out there who are just joining us, which you would have to be because this is our first one ever, we're going to rank the James Bond movies. Now, none of us knows where each other has placed those 25 movies on their list of James Bond movies. And we're going to basically go through, rank the movies, and then we're going to talk about each one of those movies, why we placed the movies where we did on our list. So before we get into that, I'd like to talk just a little bit with you guys about your history with James Bond.
Well, my history is going to be very similar to yours, Ryan, because we grew up together. So for my earliest memories, I think Granddad had two of the James Bond films on some sort of Laserdisc type machine. I think
they predated Laserdisc. It was a big, giant, square, it was like a casing, and inside of it there was some kind of disc. I don't think there were lasers involved, but they were far bigger than the regular Laserdisc. And it wasn't even a Laserdisc per se, because it was self-contained. Like, you couldn't crack it open and pull the disc out, because Laserdiscs came out after. They were about record size, right? And you can get like gold editions and things like that. But the point being, he had a bunch of this archaic technology that nobody else had, and he had two movies, For Your Eyes Only and Octopussy.
That's right. And every time we went over there, we must have had those movies on, at least in the background, if not actively watching them. So we probably saw those movies a few dozen times, just our grandparents' house. And I'm guessing at that time there was only 3 networks too. So we probably watched A View to a Kill and a few other of the Bonds, maybe Goldfinger when it was on TV. And because you had nothing else to watch, you just obsessed over these films, warts and all.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, I have a similar tale, but I'm going to get Banks's take on this because, like Paul alluded to, we have a very similar history.
I can't imagine that my history will be terribly different from yours, considering we grew up a block away.
Did you have a father who was also a British father who was also interested in movies from his homeland?
I did in fact. So I think the first Bond film I saw was The Living Daylights on an airplane. 1988, I moved to Australia for a year, and I remember seeing Living Daylights quite clearly on the plane. And then once I got a VHS and got my hands on the old Bond VHSs, I kind of got obsessed, and I bought the Bond encyclopedia, and I even went as far as going to a double bill of Goldeneye and For Your Eyes Only at the Hollywood Theater by myself.
That's an odd pairing.
It was the second run of Goldeneye, and I think like a lot of young men or teenagers, like, Bond is a kind of a fantasy that we, not aspire to, but like, like looked up to, and kind of it was somewhat shaping, maybe in negative ways.
It's hard to imagine there are a lot of ways that emulating James Bond could be shaping in a way that was positive to anyone's psyche or outlook towards the world in general.
It was good escapism for adolescent boys. And
is James Bond... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And I will say, though, that like one of the reasons we're probably all into James Bond as much as we are was probably the limitation of the amount of options we had at that time. I think when you rented something from your local video store and you had your parents spent $5 for it, you would watch it maybe 5 or 6 times in the time that you had it.
And I think with some of those older Bond movies, there's a certain like romance in them and adventure in them that was kind of worked with, you know, the movies we grew up with, the Indiana Joneses and the E.T.s and the Goonies. These are our adventure movies, and I feel like the older Bond movies with their kind of their far-flung locations and you know, exotic locales, that was something that I think really connected with me at a younger age. I wanted to go see all those places and learn about them, things like that.
That's a really good point. I'm glad we asked you on this podcast because that's a take that is really relevant, and I probably wouldn't have thought of that.
Is James Bond, as sort of a hero for guys of our age to look up to, the equivalent of, say, I don't know, like a princess, a Disney princess for females at the time, where they set this standard that is entirely unachievable and probably not, in retrospect, any kind of paradigm that you want to live up to, but does it set the sort of stage for, wow, James Bond is out there throwing people off cliffs, and he's kissing all the girls, and he's drinking all these drinks, and he's saving the world. And that's not, ultimately, it turns out that's not the way your life is going to be, much like a Disney princess for, I presume, females, although I'm not going to try and co-opt what a female's feelings are about that. But to me, it sets standards that, I don't know, can't help but set the stage for disappointment later in life. Are you guys disappointed that you didn't turn out to be James Bond?
I feel like yeah, I feel like I failed, but only in comparison to James Bond.
Listen to me right now. You guys tell me, you're Bond historians, or so, let's say lovers, not experts, who knows? I stole that from the James Bond podcast. But let's say that, now you guys, we're all men and we're 40. You guys tell me, if you know this off the top of your head, how old was Roger Moore the first time that he played James Bond in Live and Let Die?
I think he was 40.
Okay, Banks?
That's a good guess.
Roger Moore was 45 years old when he first portrayed James Bond in Live and Let Die, which means that all of us still have a chance to not only portray James Bond, they've never been a Canadian James Bond, by the way, but Canada was once part of the British Empire, so it's still a possibility, much like Australia. We could also go on to star in 7 James Bond movies, much like Roger Moore.
My life seems to be on that track.
We're 95 years old.
Hey, man. Roger Moore was looking great at 57 when he did A View to a Kill.
Was he? He's looking
Grace
pretty
Jones
good.
Seemed to think
Getting
so.
a little long in the tooth.
Yeah.
Tanya Roberts seemed to think so.
Do you know what I looked up when I was just flabbergasted? Where in Diamonds Are Forever, Sean Connery was only 40, I think.
He was younger than us.
He was younger than us.
Very quickly.
Oh.
Yeah. He went from Thunderball to Diamonds Are Forever. The guy must have been partying pretty hard.
I think he was a sea captain at the time, like in the roughest waters.
Yeah, that's what he became, an Atlantic cod fisherman for a brief period of time to return in Diamonds Are Forever, having aged 20 years. I will say, having recently watched Never Say Never Again, he looks better in that movie, which is 12 years after Diamonds, than he does in Diamonds.
Really?
He looks amazing in Never Say Never Again.
I have to say,
he looks fantastic. Yeah, I actually enjoyed that quite a bit. I'm interested to see what people thought about that.
Toupees much have come a long way in 12 years.
Yeah, indeed. I was going to say earlier, Banks, it's kind of a bizarre place to watch The Living Daylights on an airplane, given that there are at least one major plane crash in that movie, as there are in several other James Bond movies.
And Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make you comfortable on an airplane.
Probably not. In retrospect, that would. And
it was
also,
1988. So.
The most offensive thing of all, Joe Don Baker.
Sure. Who makes two other appearances in James Bond, I think.
Two others.
He does.
I think he's in
Goldeneye.
And he's in Tomorrow Never Dies.
It's correct. He plays Wade something or other. We'll get into that when we talk about these movies.
We'll get into that. I'm also super excited to hear where Chris Banks, after recently viewing The Living Daylights, has it ranked.
I can't wait to see both of you guys' rankings. I can guess some of Paul's, but I don't know for sure, and I'm wondering how these sort of childhood memories that we have are going to influence where we rank these things. Just really quickly for me, my history with Bond, like I said, is similar to Paul's. I had actually forgotten about those laser discs, and that may have been my first exposure. But what I can really remember quite vividly is having Mad Magazine when I was in grade 5, and I was really getting into, in grade 4 and 5, getting into Mad Magazine. And before I had seen any of the Bond movies or any other movies, I remember having an issue from '85 that had aliens on the front. I had no idea what these movies were. I was 9 years old, 10 years old at the time, but I poured through Mad Magazine like over and over and over again. And they actually did a really good job of some of these Bond films. And I had like a Mad Magazine compendium that had Moonraker in it. I wish I should have looked it up as to what they actually called it. But I knew like every beat of that movie before I had ever seen it. And I was really into these Bond movies, despite the fact I had never seen Moonraker. I had never seen, and I honestly think that because of that, I probably was more interested when we did go to our granddad's house in asking about those movies. And because I had seen, maybe seen the covers there. And then we got into those movies from there. And I would have said that the first movie I ever saw was either Moonraker or A View to a Kill. I know the first one I saw in the theaters for sure was The Living Daylights. I remember that our dad took us to go and see the first outing of Timothy Dalton. But that's sort of my history with it. And I just always thought it was so cool. I always would write little stories about James Bond where I did little send-ups, and would create characters that had parody names that, along the lines of Mad Magazine, where I was basically reliving these with my stuffed animals. You probably didn't know about this, Paul, but like I had some stuffed animals.
I sure didn't.
I actually wrote, like a little, not a play, but a little vignette in grade 5 where me and some of my friends acted out one of the James Bond movies as a hybrid of Muppets and James Bond characters.
I'd love to see that production.
Yeah, I can't remember a lot of the names, but I remember that. So Hugo Drax is the villain in Moonraker, as we'll discuss eventually, probably not too long from now. And I remember that I had Gonzo portrayed Hugo Drax as Huge Nose Drax.
That's just a good casting choice.
Come on, I think that's good. I wish I could remember the rest of them, but they all had these takes on their actual names. So ever since then, as soon as we were able to go up to the video store, I remember that there was a video store, Pot of Gold Video, that was 3 blocks from where we lived. And I would go up there and we would rent those Bond movies. And I remember going through the Moors because we had seen Octopussy, we had seen For Your Eyes Only, A View to a Kill, Moonraker. And then kind of discovering, because I think probably our dad was in the camp, well, you go to watch the Connerys. Okay. So we went back and watched all the Connerys and the Lazenbys. And then that's when I started watching the movies as they came out, which was the Daltons. And then unfortunately through the Brosnans. And because I had already formulated a huge opinion on those movies by the time the Brosnans came out. And I had an idea in my mind of what those movies were supposed to be. And then we get into the Craigs, and I bet we'll have a lot to say about the Craigs. I know where we fall on the Brosnans. I'm very curious to see where you guys fall on the Craigs. So does anyone have anything else they want to add before we get into what we're gonna do in this particular episode here, and whether or not this sees the light of the day, I don't really know, but we're gonna rank each one of the Bond movies because I want to see personally where everybody sort of places each one of these movies that I hold dear to my heart. And I will say, even the Brosnans, which are much maligned, I still enjoy watching them, save for one. One of them I can't watch. The other ones I think are pretty okay as far as movies go, and for James Bond movies, they're in the low end, but for other movies, I think they're actually quite entertaining. But that's just like, I really have a strong connection with these movies because I watched them a ton as a kid. When I watch them now in retrospect, sometimes it's a little hard. Sometimes I have to admit that these, number one, are movies for 12-year-olds. And number two, many of them aren't that good by like movie standards.
These movies are less than the sum of their parts. You think they should be awesome, but they're not.
You have to suspend all critical and anything that comes in, because we're so attuned to criticizing almost every art form that we see. There's more criticism of art than there is art.
Sure.
And so a lot of that you have to try and suspend to the extent that you can. So what we're going to do now is we're going to rank the movies. And the way this system is going to work for the purposes here is that I will list my least favorite James Bond movie. Then Paul will list his least favorite, and then Banks will. Once each one of us has mentioned a particular movie at least one time, then we will move on to our next movie. So basically, this is just a compendium to determine where all the movies rank. And then, in subsequent episodes of the I'm a Man, I'm 40 podcast, we will have individual discussions of each and every James Bond film. So we'll dive deeper into them at that point. We'll have a very brief little tidbit to say about them right now as the ranking comes up, and then we're going to get into a deep dive, which won't be more than hopefully 10 minutes, but who knows? We've done a lengthy preamble already. So without further ado, if you guys don't have anything to add, I think we should get into ranking these movies.
Yeah, I will say that when we rank the movies off camera, we'll be compiling the results and amalgamating the scores to see which is the actual worst Bond film, and then we'll talk about them in ascending order.
That is correct. Ascending or I believe descending from number 25 down to 1. Oh, that is ascending.
That is ascending. Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Redo. No, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep
it
rolling.
going.
Camera guy, keep rolling. Okay. We've got a huge crew here. Okay, so guys, I'm going to jump in with my least favorite James Bond movie, which I probably still like more than some other movies, but it's really my least favorite. So my least favorite James Bond movie is Tomorrow Never Dies. 1997's Pierce Brosnan extravaganza, Tomorrow Never Dies.
All right. My least favorite James Bond film, number 25, is another Pierce Brosnan film, Die Another Day.
Ooh, Brosnan. Brosnan taking a hit here. Banks?
So my 25th ranked least favorite James Bond film is also Die Another Day.
Wow,
Good
you
choice.
guys are really harsh on Die Another Day.
Savage.
I have some things to say about this, but not yet. I'll get into my 24th. Wow, Brosnan's already taken a beating here. My 24th favorite James Bond movie. And I will continue to say 24th favorite, not least favorite, because I still like them. 24th favorite James Bond movie is The Man with the Golden Gun. Roger Moore's second outing from, I want to say, 1974.
Okay. My second least favorite James Bond film.
Boo! Stink.
This is a rough watch. As Tomorrow Never Dies, Pierce Brosnan's second James Bond film.
Correct. From 1997, I want to say.
That is correct.
So hopefully there will be some dissenting opinion between me and Paul at some point during this podcast. But my 24th second least favorite film is also Tomorrow Never Dies.
All right, excellent. So I think on average that makes Tomorrow Never Dies our least favorite James Bond movie. And so that's the one we'll talk about first. But let's get on with the rankings and let's continue through the entire list. So for me, number 23 is one you guys have mentioned already, which is Die Another Day, Pierce Brosnan's last outing as James Bond, our favorite spy. You guys give us your 23s now.
All right. My number 23 is Sean Connery, his last official outing, because he did Never Say Never Again. But it's Diamonds Are Forever from 1971.
Oh, I feel bad about this. I don't feel good.
Do you really?
Right there.
Let me tell you something. Everything from 1971 looks shitty, and James Bond especially.
You just killed James Bond. I love it. Every line that she delivers, Jill St. John, is just terrible.
Terrible.
And because of that, it's so fun. She really puts her heart into it. But
she's also got tons of screen time in that film.
She really does.
She has a lot more than she needs.
So I'm going to stick in the same era, and my 23rd ranked James Bond film, I believe it's 1973's Live and Let Die.
Wow. Live and Let Die coming in at 23. I watched this movie yesterday. I can't agree with that ranking. You kind of mentioned, I'm not gonna get too deep into it, but you mentioned sort of like a time capsule and looking back in time as one of your reasons for liking these as a travel log or something along those lines. And I think Live and Let Die has a few things to offer. It's a little untimely right now. It is very problematic, but we'll get into that. Okay, I'm gonna go down to number.
So is a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of problematic stuff.
I will say, of course, but yeah, okay. We'll get. I think we can get into the political elements of this as well, maybe in another podcast. But it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I'll say that because I was ready for it to be really offside, and it was only kind of offside. But I'm interested in Banks's takes when we get there. Okay, 22 for me. Brosnan again, diving back into Brosnan. This might be a little low, but my 22nd favorite ranked Bond film is The World Is Not Enough.
You really hate Brosnan.
Hashtag not my Bond.
Okay. Well, my number 22 is The Man with the Golden Gun, which Ryan has already mentioned.
Boy, oh boy, The Man with the Golden Gun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, my 22nd is Sean Connery makes his first appearance on my list, and that's You Only Live Twice.
Wow, I am stunned by this one, and we will talk about this. Oh yeah, I'm stunned by You Only Live Twice.
It's a bit of a snooze fest.
You watched this recently?
Yes, unfortunately I did.
I watched this last night, and I was pleasantly surprised by this film.
It's definitely fairly decent. I just think there are a lot of movies that are better than it. But I think there are a lot of movies that are worse than it too. So I think it has a lot to offer. I can't wait to hear Banks' take on this when we get into it, but we're not doing that now. Damn. Now it's time for my number 21 ranked James Bond movie, and that is one of my childhood James Bond movies, Octopussy. Octopussy.
I can't believe that Octopussy is this low, too.
Well, believe it, mister.
Really?
Hey. Give me, in 10 minutes or less, a summary of the plot of Octopussy.
I couldn't do it in 2 hours, okay?
Exactly.
I have no idea what's going on, but...
No idea.
Man, I just like the ride, okay?
Makes no goddamn sense at all.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
Octopussy, the part that's in India is probably the worst 45 minutes in Bond.
Oh, there's the most... Roger Moore says the most racist thing in any of the James Bond films in this movie, in Octopussy. He says, like, when he hands someone a lot of money, he says to this Indian guy, that should keep you in curry for a few weeks.
Sarah, I'm laughing at how terrible it is, not because I think it's funny.
That was an actual line.
Thank God.
Oh, James Bond makes fun of Asians, women, amputees, midgets, pardon me, little people, pardon me. Just any demographic that's not British men who are middle-aged. James Bond has a run at. Incredibly offside. So that's my 21.
All right. My number 21 is Live and Let Die.
Okay. Wow. Live and Let Die. Very interesting.
I'm thinking you have a lot more love for these early Moors than we do.
He just looks so good in this movie. He looks so good. Jane Seymour looks so good. I love Kananga. I think Yaphet Kotto turns into good. I'm getting too into it. I think it's an interesting time capsule. All right, so there's Live and Let Die at 21. Banks, 21.
It's already been mentioned, but my 21 is The World Is Not Enough, Pierce Brosnan.
Gotcha. Wow, Paul putting a lot of these Moors above the Brosnans. Okay.
Some of these Moors are so sleepy.
They're
so sleepy.
I tried to get through The Man with the Golden Gun a couple months ago. I fell asleep. I tried to get through Moonraker. I fell asleep. Really hard to watch these
They're
things.
hard to watch. I remember like about a year ago, Chris Banks, he was like, oh, let's put Live and Let Die on the background. And I said to Chris Banks at the time, I said, I think we can put a fork in Live and Let Die for the rest of my life. I don't think I could ever watch this film again.
Wow, I watched it yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a Kananga balloon. One of the stupidest moments in the history of James Bond, where a man explodes like a balloon. First of all, inflates and then rises up into the ceiling and explodes.
Right. It's like the writers had no idea of biology whatsoever or physics whatsoever.
See, this is what makes it fun, though, is it's ridiculous. What are you looking for here?
You know what? It has to hit the right level of ridiculous. This is the hard part about Bond. It has to thread this needle between still being like fun and a little bit campy, but not being too absurd. And it's a real fine line.
That's where I think the Brosnans kind of failed, is that they were a little bit self-aware, too self-aware, but they didn't go into the kind of fun campiness that the Roger Moores did.
Right.
That would be my overall critique of, like, we watched Goldeneye the other day, and it was just, there's just too much self-awareness. It's like, Mr. Bond, do you cry, do you drink those dry martinis to silence the voices of all the people you've killed? It's like, I don't need to hear that.
Right. One thing James Bond, the franchise, can't stand up to is meta-analysis, and they should never have tried.
Exactly.
Yeah, I concur, but you'll see that throughout the films. There's always the James Bond theme is playing in the background, like it's somebody's playing it on a pipe in India, or they're singing in a cabaret in Live and Let Die. Like stuff like that pops up all the time.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily the meta-analysis I'm talking about. I thought
I
you were
see.
talking about James Bond knowing that
Oh,
he's
I
like
get
this, like yeah, like the self, like knowing that he's like a womanizing dirtbag, and the franchise knowing that he's a a hard drinking, chain smoking, womanizing dirtbag. It's when the franchise, the property itself, becomes
Yeah.
self-aware and comments on that aspect of it.
When the franchise is trying to be woke, which
Right.
I think the Craigs take a big step towards attempting to do by acknowledging all his faults. Yeah, I think you're right. It gets off the rails a little bit.
I feel like the Bonds begin to be a bit feminist in the Dalton years.
Yes, they do. And I was going to say that about the Living Daylights as much as I love it.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that as a negative, but you can start to see the influence of like, the culture into the movies at that point, and certain things start to become more unacceptable, and Bond's character is just kind of a misogynist prick, right? Like in the early years, and that's, I guess, part of the appeal to people is that he is kind of this like untamed dude, right? Anyways.
No, absolutely. And his character gets sandpapered away throughout the years, and then you're left with a steaming pile of Brosnan.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll have a lot to say about Brosnan, I believe, but we should get through. We're still in the 20s, guys.
Okay, let's keep going.
My number 20 ranked James Bond movie, this may shock and alarm you, is the first James Bond movie from, I want to say 1962, Dr. No.
No, that seems about a right good spot for it.
Okay.
My number 20, and it's been mentioned, I think, by both of you, or maybe just one of you, The World Is Not Enough.
Okay, there we go. The Brosnans are falling quickly. But you mean The World Is Not Enough is not your favorite, but Denise Richards is your favorite. Like
that's why she elevated about 4 spots, because she's so good.
She takes it up a notch, right?
Absolutely.
The tour de force. Yeah. Just can't get enough.
Yeah,
I've got a quote about her acting when we do that one. That's pretty great.
Nice. All right, number 20 from Chris Banks.
Number 20, I'm the last one to put this on the list, I believe. It's the 1974's The Man with the Golden Gun.
Hey, there you go. I think
I kind of like it.
Okay.
It's a bit of a guilty pleasure for me.
Sure.
There's things about it that are kind of fun.
I feel like it's the most 70s of the James Bond movies.
I gotta say that Diamonds Are Forever is the most 70s of the James Bond. And I will die on that hill.
I feel like Hunter S. Thompson is like in the background of that movie somewhere, high on ether. It's that exact Las Vegas, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, looking forward to our discussion of The Man with the Golden Gun. I'll move into the teens now. Number 19 for me is Connery's last official outing under the Eon banner, which is Diamonds Are Forever.
All right. I can't wait to talk about this when we do.
Yeah.
This is something.
Absolutely.
Okay. So my number 19 is another Connery, and I think you guys will have it around this spot. Is Thunderball.
Gotcha. Thunderball. Okay.
Love those underwater fight scenes.
Oh, bad. Yeah, I got a lot to say about Thunderball as well. I do think it has exciting moments. None of those moments take place underwater. So you could chop out 45 minutes of the movie. You'd have the exact same movie. You could have Sean going into the water and then cut out 45 minutes and have him coming out. You could just presuppose all the stuff that happened in the middle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, Banks, give us 19.
19 is early 80s Octopussy.
There we go.
Okay.
I'm telling you, it's not a terrific film. It's okay.
I liked it more in my younger years, and watching it recently, reappraising it, not good.
I think it's a great film for kids to get into the world of James Bond.
Pussy in the name of the theme.
How they got away with that, I don't think you could do it now. I really don't think that you could have that word in the title of a James Bond film. But
I've got this film so much higher than you guys, and I'm going to say that it is a great film for when you're doing other shit in the house. If you got to cook dinner, you're vacuuming, and you don't have to pay attention to it.
See, Caitlin, my girlfriend, is really reluctant to watch James Bond films, but on the occasions that I've been able to talk her into it, the movies that I subjected her to happened to be Octopussy, which is like, it's just unintelligible for somebody who's not already not interested. This is not the movie you're going to be like, what? Where have these movies been my whole life? Oh my God, Roger Moore looks great at 55. This guy is handsome. I can see why women in their 20s are just like falling over themselves to get into bed with him.
It's not a good gateway Bond for females.
It's not. She's seen You Only Live Twice, which is not great.
No.
Goldeneye, which is the best of the Brosnans, but still,
No.
Anyway, I'm not going to dig too deeply into this. I'm forcing her to watch A View to a Kill this Friday, and that'll get her.
No, The Living Daylights. They'll get him for an hour and 20 minutes because Timothy Dalton is a handsome man, and it's more of like a romance story. So start him off with some Living Daylights.
Yeah, I like it too. All right, so that was number 19 from Banks. We're going to get into number 18 from me, which is Thunderball.
Oh, very close to me.
Very close.
All right, and I got one at 18 that's very close to where you put it. I've got Dr. No at 18.
Oh, there we go. Boy, we're not having any major surprises here.
No.
I want to get into some like arguments about this stuff, but we're all in the same ballpark.
We'll get into some arguments where you found out where I've ranked Octopussy.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. All right, Banks, give us 18.
My 18th is, again, sticking with Paul's pick, Dr. No.
Nice,
Dr.
Chris
No.
Banks.
Yeah.
This
I knew you had great taste.
This is probably right around where Dr. No belongs. I look forward to talking about it. It's not a bad movie. Boy, oh boy, does nothing happen in it.
For 1962, it's a pretty good movie.
So much happens
today.
For 1962. Yeah. But let's
Kennedy
remember.
was still alive. It's a long time ago.
Sean Connery, at the time of recording, is still alive.
Wow.
At the time of recording. But by the time we're done this podcast, he's probably dead.
This guy's like Jimmy Carter. He just keeps going.
Okay, I'm going to get it to 17. For 17 for me is another. By the way, Connery's not doing well in this. You Only Live Twice.
Okay. You also ranked it really low. I'm very surprised just because You Only Live Twice. If there is an episode of James Bond which everyone spoofs off of, like if you're talking about Dr. No, if you're talking about The Simpsons, it's mostly You Only Live Twice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So iconic.
Yeah, I agree. That doesn't make it that great.
Fair point.
As an actual, just to sit there and view it, I don't think it's bad. These are still movies I totally love. There's no way I'm not watching it again at some point. It's just like, at present, not on the top of my rewatch list.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. At 17, I put a movie that I think everyone's going to have a hard time ranking because it's just so bland, but you don't know if it's good or bad. It is the first entry, I think, of a Daniel Craig, Spectre.
Yeah, okay. Here it comes. Spectre. Spectre at number 17. 17, correct? Yes, 17. Banks?
Also, Daniel Craig's first appearance on my list, Quantum of Solace.
Oh, Quantum for Chris Banks. I can't wait to talk about the Craig movies, particularly those two, particularly Spectre and Quantum. There's just so many interesting things to discuss in those. I think they're underrated to an extent. And I think people dismiss them quite a bit, but I'm really looking forward to getting into those two. Okay, so that's 17 for Banks. 16 for myself is, let me go down the list here. 16 is, this is great. I like this. I never thought this would be as high as it is, but never say never again. Because just to be clear to people out there, this is not, quote unquote, a canonical Bond film, meaning it wasn't produced by the same production company as the rest of them. It came out the same year as 1983's Octopussy. It was Sean Connery coming back for one more movie. For some bizarre reason, it's effectively a remake of Thunderball, and it is a lot of fun.
All right. I can't wait to rewatch this one. I haven't seen it in maybe 20 years now, so.
Well, it looks like all of us have it somewhere in the middle, so. 16 for you?
16 for me is Moonraker.
Okay, 16, Moonraker, Roger Moore from 1979. The James Bond series response to Star Wars.
Do you guys both have Moonraker ranked higher than Octopussy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's outrageous.
If you ask me right now, hey, Ryan, we're watching a movie tonight, and it has to be one of these two, it's going to be Moonraker.
Holy shit.
Agreed.
Okay.
Come on, that movie is so ridiculous. It's so tonally all over the place.
It is so totally all over the place.
There's a hovercraft. There's a gondola that turns into a hovercraft. And at the same time, there's a woman who gets eaten by dogs.
Yeah.
It's insane.
There's a pigeon double take and a woman who's eaten by dogs.
Pigeon double take. The pigeon, it's because of the hovercraft gondola. The
Right.
pigeon has seen it all, but he's never seen a gondola turning into a hovercraft. What?
Some of these movies, I talked about the camp value, and they're upon rewatching them, there's a certain value that comes with Moonraker and some of the other really campier movies that they're fun to make fun of.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're great films, but they're quite watchable, and they're more watchable than some of the blander entries.
Yeah, so that's what sometimes I had a difficult time deciding like which is the better movie, which would I rather watch again, and how much to weigh each of those two factors and where I rank them.
It wasn't my only factor. A lot of it is, childhood memories. A lot of it is which I would rewatch again.
Right.
A lot of it is just is it an actual entertaining movie or not? And
Sure.
Moonraker is really out there, but man, they hook you with that cold open. They frickin' throw the guy out of a plane. That's great.
Yeah, that whole space sequence is so slow and and sloppy and just
space lasers.
It looks
right.
so.
How can you criticize a movie where Jaws finds a girlfriend?
That's why I would criticize it, because this brutal killer that's killed so many people throughout the run of these two movies, and James Bond decides to let him go because he's found love.
Finds love.
They really neuter Jaws in this film.
Yeah.
And his indestructibility. Okay,
Yeah.
they really push it here, but whatever. Jaws isn't much of a character to begin with. I think Jaws is slightly overrated, having just watched The Spy Who Loved Me 3 days ago. Okay.
Right.
So 16 was Moonraker. Banks?
I have another Craig, Spectre at 16.
Okay. We all have Spectre somewhere in the middle. Terrific. I'm going to keep moving here because we're only 10 in. We'll go to the 15th ranked movie for myself, and that is Spectre.
Okay. So I'll go to the 15th, and again, it's another Craig. It's Quantum of Solace.
You guys hating on Quantum. I don't care
That's
for
not
it.
hating it. That's 10 in. That's not hating it. That's just being
I kind of
lukewarm.
hate it.
That's being lukewarm on Quantum, bro.
I think you're sleeping on Quantum.
Okay.
I really do. I
I
think
I fell asleep during Quantum.
It's the shortest movie. That's an admirable quality for a James Bond movie, given that, oh my God, Never Say Never Again was 2 hours and 17 minutes. Skyfall is almost 2.5. Oh my God, it's too much.
I don't remember the villain. I don't remember the henchman.
Dominic Green.
I don't remember the Bond girl. I don't,
Camille. She works for the Bolivian Secret Service. She's been wronged by Dominic Green.
Okay.
Elvis is the sidekick. Elvis.
I watched it a week ago and I don't remember anything about it.
Right.
So.
Strawberry Fields.
Apparently, Ryan has written extensive fan fiction about Quantum of Solace. So.
Time fanfic. Look, they threaten Bolivia's water supply. The stakes are huge. Okay, let's move along, Quantum haters. That was Paul's number 15. Is that correct? Banks number 15?
15, I have Pierce Brosnan's Goldeneye.
Dun,
All
dun,
right.
dun, dun. Ba-na.
It's not as good as I remember.
It's not, is it?
No. But
That
it's got moments at least.
Oh yeah, it's definitely got moments. But that chase sequence where they score it with this weird techno beat, almost knocks it down 3 spots on this list. It's so out of place.
Is that the one with the tanks or?
No, it's the one very
chase.
early on where the car chase.
Okay.
Yeah, the cold open.
Oh, it's not the cold open.
Right.
The cold open is him infiltrating the
right.
base.
Yeah, no, but it's shortly after that where he's having a road test and I don't know, someone tries to kill him. Watch it.
Right.
It is so it's so out of place.
Not sure which has the worst score, Goldeneye or The Spy Who Loved Me, but we'll get into it when we get into it.
Okay.
All right, so my number 14, moving down the ranks. Now we're getting into oh, you guys, this one's way up. Live and Let Die. I got Live and Let Die in here.
Okay. That's
Higher
you're
than
not
you
that
guys.
far off from us. I mean, it's 6 or
Yours
7 off.
Banks is at 23.
Okay, well, that's pretty far off.
I think it's the biggest discrepancy so far. Okay, so there's Live and Let Die. Give me 14, Paul.
14, we've got, I think it's its first appearance, For Your Eyes Only.
For Your Eyes Only. Here it is at 14. Okay.
Right.
This is Roger Moore from 1981, his fifth outing as James Bond. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Number 14 is Thunderball.
Wow,
Right.
Thunderball moving up the ranks for Chris Banks. I'd be interested to hear why.
Used to be one of my top 5, but again, upon reappraisal, it has dropped.
Interesting. Okay, I'll get into 13 for me now, and number 13 is Moonraker.
All right. I can't wait when we talk about Moonraker, but probably
I can't wait to talk about all of them.
I know, right? Okay, 13 for me, and I can't wait to rewatch this one because I just have it arbitrarily ranked right now. Is Never Say Never Again.
There you go. Okay. Okay. Interesting. It would be interesting to see if that holds up.
Yeah.
How do you plug it in there if you haven't seen it in so long?
Well, the thing is, though, because you don't remember anything really negative about it. You don't remember anything super, like, oh, I really love Never Say Never. I do have, like, real memories of the villain. I remember Kim Basinger's in it. I remember that, that there was, like, someone gets killed in a pool or something like that. One of Bond's girlfriends, or like a hot tub, or not a hot tub, a water bed. I forget.
That's right.
The water bed, right.
That's right, yeah.
So there's things that really stick in my mind. I don't know if it's a good movie or not right now because I haven't seen it in 15 years.
Okay. Awesome. Banks, 13.
Paul Sykes not going to like this, but I have License to Kill at 13.
Oh,
I do not like that. But you know what? You said you really don't like this film, and it made it to the middle of your ranking. So, yeah.
Yeah, you must really dislike the other ones.
When we talk about this, though, I will list in excruciating detail all the reasons why you're wrong. But until then...
Is one of those reasons Talisa Soto?
No, as a Bond girl, I actually like the Richard Gere's wife.
She's fantastic. Yeah, Carrie Lowell. She's really good.
Carrie Lowell is really good.
Talisa Soto is one of the worst James Bond girls.
Yeah.
Let's couch it for now.
Let's couch it for now because I've got a lot of great things to say about this film.
I just love James so much.
That's a good.
I just love James so much. You met him 5 minutes ago. Okay. Let's get into number 12 for me. Number 12 is Skyfall. This is the third outing for Daniel Craig, which we had to wait 4 years to get. I would have been happy to wait another year.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most overrated Bonds
I do.
out there. It's got like a 97 Rotten Tomato rating. It's way too high.
Yeah, I have lots to say about it, but we'll get into it.
We'll get into it. Okay, so, my number 12 is Goldeneye, completing my Pierce Brosnans.
Rounds out the Brosnans, huh? Number 12. Yeah. That's the end of Brosnan. Okay, Banks?
I've got Diamonds Are Forever at 12.
Wow.
Oh my. Okay, so
someone's a big Jimmy Dean fan.
Yeah, this movie is so sloppily edited. There's no establishing shots to anything. I want to talk about this movie with you.
I didn't say it was logical, but I like it.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Wint up your tutor, Charlie.
Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd, they're just fantastic.
There is a dune buggy, like a moon buggy chase that's not scored.
Exactly.
It's the boringest thing I've ever witnessed. They should have.
It's not scored, and it looks like it's in slow motion.
It looks like it's in slow motion. They should have sped it up and played Benny Hill music over it, and it would be a much better film.
They should have played yakety sax. Okay, that was sorry, I lost. I swear I just lost track of what was going on here.
Yeah, because Chris Beggs blew it up with his Diamonds Are Forever at number 12.
Oh yeah, okay, so that was 12 for Diamonds. Okay, no, this is what we want.
It's the 12th best James Bond film. It's not Citizen Kane.
Okay, for me, 11. I think this might. I don't think Brosnan cracks the top 10 for any of us. Wait, I don't know if Banks. Oh yeah, no, Banks says it. This is 11 for me, Goldeneye.
All right. Doesn't surprise me. At number 11, I have Skyfall.
Okay, there. Oh, geez. Okay, there it is. Yeah. Skyfall, Banks.
Number 11, I have Moonraker.
Okay, that is impressive. Moonraker almost cracking the top 10. Yeah. Fantastic. I love it. Now, speaking of the top 10, let's get into it. My number 10, my 10th most favorite Bond movie, a Bond movie I've probably watched 1 gazillion times is What a View to a Kill.
Ah, yes. My number 10 is another Roger Moore film, and it is The Spy Who Loved Me.
Okay, The Spy Who Loved Me coming in hot at number 10. The Spy Who Loved Me, by the way, comes out in 1977. Roger Moore's third outing as our favorite spy. Banks?
I've got number 10. I think this is the last of the Craigs for me, Casino Royale.
Wowzer.
Oh, at number 10, that is low for Casino.
That is low, historically. Very. I love that Banks has these takes. I think it's fantastic because he's
Hot
coming
takes.
in at it. Yep.
Yeah. He's taking my job as
Gotta
Mr.
have-
Hot Takes.
This is why, people are tuning in to I'm a Man, I'm 40. It's for the hottest possible middle-aged white guy takes. What? Guys, it's lighting up the internet. There's some guy who thinks that Royale is the 10th ranked. We got to get on this.
What an idiot!
Call Entertainment Weekly. Entertainment Weekly. Call Dalton Ross. Get him in on this. Entertainment Tonight. Entertainment Tonight Canada. We're not cracking the American lineup. But
No,
okay,
absolutely.
so number 10, Casino Royale. Let's get into number 9 for me. Number 9 for me is From Russia with Love.
Okay. I'm surprised it's that low for you, but I don't blame you for that.
The pacing is so weird in that movie.
It's so weird in that movie.
Oh, God.
My number 9, and I hope this is going to be probably the lowest that you guys have it, is Goldfinger.
Goldfinger.
Ooh.
Wow.
Everyone talks about, Goldfinger's the quintessential Bond film. No, it's not.
Goldfinger, the third James Bond movie coming out, and I want to say around 1965, starring Sean Connery. As Paul says, one of the most highly regarded James Bond films. Banks, number 9 for you.
Number 9 is 1985's A View to a Kill,
There it is.
which I really like.
Boy, I really like this movie too. I cannot wait to talk about A View to a Kill. This was, as Banks says, 1985, and this is Roger Moore's 7th and final outing as James Bond. And just to make note, Roger Moore was the longest-serving James Bond with 7 official movies. Although, if you're counting Never Say Never Again, which we are, Sean Connery also has 7, which I think is appropriate that those two end up with the same number. Okay,
You
so
guys
let's
talk
move.
about how much you love this film, but it's ranked so low. Why don't you guys put your money where your mouth is and rank A View to a Kill in the top 3, like someone's about to do?
I almost did a spit take. The top 3 James Bond movies of all time involves a 20-minute plot surrounding horses, subplot with horses
Indeed.
that nobody can Okay, sure.
Yeah, the plot is more convoluted than Octopussy, but it doesn't matter. Sorry, it's not my top 3, but we'll get into that.
Horses, steroids. Grace Jones is involved somehow.
There's eugenics.
No idea.
Yeah,
what's
There's
going on.
the Beach Boys, a snowboarding scene.
It's an amazing film.
There is no James Bond that does fewer of his own stunts than Roger Moore.
There's no film I'd rather put on the background if I'm like having people over than I think you can just view it at and watch it at any 2-minute snippet than A View to a Kill.
I love that your criteria is that I don't actually want to watch this movie,
Yeah.
but it's good ambiance.
It's an amazing film for ambience.
Well, to quote Chris Walken, right on schedule. My number 8 ranked James Bond movie is Goldfinger.
Wow. Okay, Ryan, we just had ours a little flipped here because my number 8 is From Russia with Love.
What? Oh, man. I was hoping for more controversy.
Well, we never seem to get it. We always seem to rank our stuff pretty close together.
Seems pretty similar. I'm surprised, though, because we did not discuss these beforehand. at
No,
all.
we didn't.
Banks, number 8?
My number 8 is one of the worst opening songs, but actually a pretty good movie. That's For Your Eyes Only.
Nice.
Is it 1981 or 83? I'm not
For
sure.
Your Eyes Only is 1981.
81.
Coming in at number 8 for Chris Banks. I think this is a highly regarded film. Okay, or at
It
least
is.
in my mind.
I would like to challenge Chris Banks' assertion about this song. I think for like a wussy elevator music, it is the perfect song.
It's a terrific James Bond theme song. Sheena Easton can't quite hit the high notes, but it's a really good song.
Yeah, I actually kind of like it For Your Eyes Only song.
Oh, brilliant idea for podcast. Never been done. Rank the James Bond songs.
Hey, do you know what's last? Die Another Day.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that.
Bad.
Ooh, Never Say Never Again is
made.
not a very good song.
No, it's not.
But
Living
Die Another
Daylight
Day is
song.
awful.
It's awful. What is?
The Living Daylight song?
Oh, I really like the Living
It's
Daylight
good.
song. I think it's
Okay,
really
it's a
underrated,
catchy
to be
song.
honest with you. Yeah.
That'd be in my top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
I think you would be surprised at where the Quantum of Solace song comes in on my ranking as well.
I have probably only heard that a couple times. I have to listen to that again.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that was our number 8. My number 7, 007, is Quantum of Solace.
Oh, wow. Really
I
high
like
on
me
the
some
Quantum.
I like me some Quantum. I really
I can't
do.
wait to rewatch this one, too. I've watched it recently, probably about 3 years ago, but I like to give it another viewing. I don't know.
I hated it when it came out.
Yeah, me
hated it
too.
when it came out. And then years later, I went back and watched it, and I'm like, wait a second. This is a way better movie than 90% of the James Bond garbage I've watched in the past.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
No.
Okay. So that
Okay.
was number 7, Paul.
7 making its first appearance is on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
OHMS.
The only Lazenby James Bond.
Yes, indeed. Can't wait to discuss this one. So many things to discuss with so many interesting things happen in this movie, but we should talk about them when we talk about them. Banks, number 7 for you.
Number 7 for me, I lied. There is another Daniel Craig movie. It's Skyfall at number 7.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Skyfall really moving up.
Banks with the highest ranking of Skyfall. This is a very popular movie coming out in, 2012, the third of the Daniel Craig outings. And we have since 2012 only had one other James Bond movie.
Crazy.
Just alarming. All right.
How
These
hard
things,
is it to pump these things out.
I just don't know what the Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson are waiting for. It's the same plot every time. Who gives a shit? It doesn't matter what you have him do.
Yeah.
You know, have him play Mahjong the entire time. People are going to tune in for it. It doesn't
And
matter.
I think these plots are reverse engineered anyway. I think they just want elements they want in. It's like, okay, we want James Bond to surf, and we also want a laser, right? Like I think, and they like, what plot can we get these elements in? I think that's how they're done.
Yeah, this one's we want Albert Finney with a shotgun. Let's build the movie around that.
Right.
Can we do that? Let's do that.
All right. The last 20 minutes of Skyfall is essentially like Die Hard in a Scottish manner.
I've heard Home Alone in a Scottish manner.
Home Alone,
yeah,
maybe
right?
that's better.
Yeah. That's the weakness I find from Skyfall. I think it drags on way too long, and that particular sequence is so boring to me.
I got a lot to say about it. There's a few saving graces for that movie. Like if you watch it as a movie, it's a really good, like well shot, pretty movie. But there's a lot of problems with it. So we keep talking too much about these things. We'll have our chance.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm down to number 6 now. We're getting to the really good ones. Number 6 for me, this is not even the last of the Moors, The Spy Who Loved Me.
Okay.
I love this movie. I don't care. It's so stupid. I love it.
Yeah. At number 6 for me, and this is way higher than you guys put in. So this is the biggest discrepancy.
This got to be.
Is You Only Live Twice.
Oh.
What?
No, I thought you were going to go another way with that. You only lived. This is number 6?
This is number 6. You Only Live Twice. Hey, You Only Live. Well, this is a decent film. This You Only Live Twice. But I guess you're figuring out what my number 5 movie is in this.
Yeah, I think so. Banks, what's your 6?
So I considered ranking this even higher, but number 6 for me is Never Say Never Again, which I really enjoyed.
It's really good.
A couple of days ago.
All right.
Much
really
more than
funny.
I remembered. So
yeah,
I'll have a lot to say about that one in specifically.
Okay, I think I will too. But we'll keep moving on for the sake of
directed by Irvin Kershner, director of Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah,
it's true. And what else? Exactly. Okay, so
I was going to say Wyatt Earp. I think.
Came in hot. Irvin Kershner came in hot and disappeared.
Flamed out. Yeah. Okay, so my number 5 is 1989's Timothy Dalton. It's his sad swan song as James Bond, Licensed to Kill.
Oh, I love that you've ranked it this high because I love this film so much.
James Bond goes rogue.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
I didn't think it was that good at the time, and now when I watch it, it's so great. It's really funny. All right,
great
number 5.
henchman, great villain, everything.
It's got a lot of talking points for sure. Banks, number 5.
Oh, it's me.
Number
first.
5.
Paul. Whoa.
Oh,
Sorry, that doesn't matter. Either
no,
one.
No, that was my fault. Okay, sorry. Now my number 5 is, you guessed it, folks. It's Octopussy. Hey, you had Diamonds Are Forever number 12, all right?
I mean,
this is far more egregious.
No,
yeah,
it
this
isn't.
is. I mean, Diamonds Are Forever. You can argue that it's middle of the pack. Octopussy is not a top 5 James Bond film.
Oh, it is, because these films are fucking horrible. So to get that high on the list, you don't have to be that good. Octopussy is entertaining from start to finish. The elements are weird. Tonally, again, it's all over the map, but it is an entertaining movie.
Why are there
I
diamonds?
can't shake Roger Moore as a clown, a circus clown.
He
can't
puts the
shake
makeup
it.
on at the end in under 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, look, as an entertaining film, I just think it's if I had to watch one of these films, and you're like, oh, you can either watch this or any of the Brosnans again, it would be Octopussy.
You're watching
That's fair.
Octopussy before you watch. Oh, I'm looking at your rankings here. Like any of the Craigs so far?
I watched, yeah, but there's going to be a Craig that ranks
Yeah, I know,
higher.
I know.
But I watched Octopussy last night, and I was like, you know what? I'm having a lot of fun, and I did not have that reaction to Diamonds Are Forever.
What kind of pain medication were you on?
Well, I did take a T3 and some naproxen last night.
It really takes a step down when they kill VJ. I love that guy.
I know VJ was a great kind of sidekick.
They should have kept him in there. He's really good.
I would like to see VJ more.
There's so many characters. We should talk about like someday, like we'll rank the top 10 characters that we wish that they had appeared again or something.
Sanders.
Like that. That's kind of fun.
Saunders
Is good. Yeah, Saunders is good. All right. So Banks, we need your number 5.
Okay, my number 5 is The Living Daylights.
Hey,
Timothy Dalton, 1987.
I'm glad to see it made it into your top 5, because when I said that it's going to be like high on my list, you were like, I don't know about that. So apparently you rewatched it last night and had a good reaction.
I've always liked the film. I would hesitate maybe to put it as number 1, but I think it's a very, very solid movie. Kind of stands alone as a spy movie apart from the Bond name, I think.
Yeah, it does.
And it introduces the world to Osama bin Laden. So
that was the first time he hit the silver screen.
Absolutely.
It's kind of ironic. Anyways, we'll talk about that when we talk about it.
We will talk about it. I'll quickly say that I think of all the Bonds that are really that old, if you go back, it dates the best.
Yeah, that's fair.
Except for the Osama bin Laden thing, but it does date pretty well.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Okay, so my number 4, we're really getting into it now. This is going to blow you guys' mind. Number 4 is For Your Eyes Only.
Ooh, that is high. Yeah.
I think it's
I have time for that.
Yeah, I'm okay. Well, I don't want to dig into why.
Yeah.
But it really is a stripped down Moore movie. Of the Moore movies, it's not ridiculous. It's
Isn't
to me the
it
closest
7 hours
to like a Dalton
long?
film. Nah,
No?
it's the perfect runtime.
What is the actual runtime of it? Is it longer than?
I have no idea. They're
Okay.
all about 2 hours. The majority of them are about 2 hours. And you get into the Craigs and they start to creep up. And then
Okay.
Quantum, takes it down. It's so nice. And then they start to creep up again.
For Your Eyes Only just feels like 4 hours.
No Time to Die is close to 3 hours. The cut. So I'm concerned
long.
about that.
Yeah.
I've heard some real
Too long.
terrible rumors about that lately. And I'm not spoiled, but I heard something about it that really disappoints me. So I'm not going to go deeper into that. 4 from Paul.
Number 4 is the Roger Moore classic, A View to a Kill.
Yeah. Okay. Crack the top 10 for all of us. So this movie is that bad, despite the fact that it has it was terribly regarded at the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I think it's just because he's so old, but the villain Christopher Walken is just chewing the scenery and I love it.
James.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Banks, number 4.
Number 4, I have kind of a weird one in the series, but that's George Lazenby's On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
There we go. On Her Majesty's Secret Service, ranking very high.
Very
great
high.
music, great cinematography, good pacing. A lot of great things about this movie. I think this movie, had it had Sean Connery, is probably the number 1 James Bond film.
I hear that a lot. If they had just put Sean Connery in this, it could have been the best. All right, we will.
I think it says that in the James Bond Encyclopedia. No, we had the James Bond
Probably.
Encyclopedia. It said that.
We'll dissect this shortly. Okay, so number 3 for me. We're getting into the top 3 now. Number 3, I have Casino Royale.
Oh, Ryan, how did you know? Because at number 3, I have Casino
There
Royale.
you go. There's Casino. All right. Well, I think we know where we're going from here. I can kind of parse out where Paul's movies go from here on, and where Banks's movies go from here on. Okay, so number 3 for Chris Banks.
Number 3 is kind of, I think, a movie that I think this, along with Goldfinger, really shaped where the series was going, and that's From Russia with Love, which
You have a lot more.
Yeah, it doesn't date very well, but I think for the time period it was created, it's kind of one of the quintessential James Bonds. So, still a good film today. Cool locations. You've got the Istanbul, and you've got the Orient Express, and a lot of great elements to that movie. So that's my number 3.
It's a quality film, but I can't watch it without falling asleep during the gypsy scenes.
We'll get into it.
Yeah.
I got lots to say about all these things, but we don't want to bury the lead here. So we got that was number 3. Number 2 for me, I mean, you guys can figure this out from here pretty much. Number 2 for me is the one and only turn that Lazenby took as Bond in 1969's On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Okay, yeah, I thought you've always been a big proponent of On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
It's a good movie.
No surprise there. All right.
Only James Bond movie that has curling in it.
Okay, well, yeah, that's another reason to love it. So at number 2, I have The Living Daylights.
At number 2.
Right, that's correct.
Wow, yes. I've just figured out what your number 1 James Bond movie is.
That's right. Yes, you have.
Sure. Okay. Great. Well, we all have Living Daylights in the top 5, which is pretty amazing considering.
That's amazing.
Average Bond fan, or just movie idiot, if you ask them to tell me about The Living Daylights, they do, the Daltons are terrible. 25. That's how you know to defriend somebody immediately, and they're not worth your time, or really, they're a waste of atmosphere.
They are a waste of atmosphere.
We could use that atmosphere for other animals or house plants or whatever. It's frustrating.
And I'm telling you, if they trim 20 minutes from this movie, this is the best Bond film of all time. If they trim or condense or just not have the last act in Afghanistan where it's too sprawling at that point.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. Banks, number 2.
Number 2.
Oh, my God. I'm looking at Banks's 2 remaining spots here. I can't believe it.
The Spy Who Loved Me, which I love this movie. I've always loved this movie, and I think it's the quintessential Roger Moore movie. It is dated, but I think it compares well to a lot of the other films of the time. It's got a cool soundtrack. It's got Ringo Starr's wife, Barbara Bach, in it.
Okay.
She's not great, but I just have a real soft spot for this movie.
Yeah.
Hey, we all have it in the top 10, so it'll be interesting to discuss. That's high. Okay, well, that leaves us with our number 1 movies, which I can fill in the blanks for everybody, but I'll let you do that. The number 1 James Bond movie for me is The Living Daylights, starring Timothy Dalton from 1980. Isn't it weird, though? It's the first one I saw in the theaters, and I wonder if that influences it or if it's just a really great movie. I do think it's a really great movie. I'd like to discuss it further, but that's all I'm going to say about it right now.
Love that cold open, but I think it's a fantastic movie. And it was for me, it was a real toss-up between this and License to Kill, but I think License to Kill is tighter. So I'll lead it to mine. My number 1 movie is License to Kill.
And for the first time ever, somebody has ranked License to Kill as the best James Bond movie of all time.
I just like it's a smaller story. It's revenge with Felix. I'm tired of him stopping a war. Everyone's like they want James Bond to do something different. He did something different here, and I think that all the set pieces work. I think the villain works. I think the henchman works. I like the Bond girl. I think all of its elements are fantastic.
Okay, save it for the podcast. We'll get there. No, I hear you. I just realized we've been talking so much about all these movies. We have lots more to give, though, and I know where Banks is going on this one. So, Banks, you tell us about your number one James Bond movie of all time.
Okay, number 1. I had at number 3 From Russia with Love, and I have at number 1 Goldfinger.
There you go.
And my reasoning is that I think like there are certain Bond films like The Living Daylights and a lot of the Daniel Craig movies that kind of go more towards the Ian Fleming kind of serious spy thriller James Bond, But Goldfinger kind of brings in a little bit more of the comic book elements that I kind of like, that influence a lot of the other movies, some of the Roger, like the later Roger Moore period movies, and the fantastical elements. So I think Goldfinger holds up remarkably well. I watched it recently, and it's, I think, the most quintessential Bond movie.
All right. Well, we will dive into Goldfinger when we get into our individual discussions on a piece or a movie by movie basis, starting with our 25th most favorite James Bond movie, which is Tomorrow Never Dies. And that'll be coming up in our 25-part series on James Bond movie discussion. So when we reconvene, I will do a little bit of math and I will average them all out to determine. I can tell right now Tomorrow Never Dies is definitely the worst. The 25th most favorite James Bond movie.
I imagine we'd have probably less to say about the crappier ones, or maybe I'm wrong about that.
We'd have a lot to say about, I think, the crappy ones. Actually, I think we'll have a lot to say about all these films, to be honest with you. If you give
I don't know how much I have to say about Tomorrow Never Dies.
I've got quite a few things to say.
Die Another Day.
I mean, if Tomorrow Never Dies is your least favorite film, there's got to be reasons that it is your least favorite, and I can't wait to discuss those. Okay. I don't want to give this. Look, if we give too much away now, people aren't going to be coming back for more. They'll be like, "Oh, I got the gist of it. I got that." They don't like Pierce Brosnan. Okay.
No, I'll give them a reason. 8-minute motorcycle chase.
What, with a helicopter blade that somehow cuts through a village but doesn't crash the helicopter at all?
It goes on for 8 minutes. I looked at the time. I'm like, I'm so bored about a minute and a half into this.
Save it, Paul. Save it.
You're just killing it, Stealth Boat. You come on, Stamper. Come on.
They need to be given a taste.
Look, they're fighting for exclusive broadcast rights in China for the next 100 years. Okay, so I think that probably does wrap up our ranking. When we reconvene with the Tomorrow Never Dies, I'll do some math and I'll lay out the order in which we're going to discuss them all, and then we'll just go through them one by one. So until we meet again, this is Ryan for the I'm a Man, I'm 40 podcast, signing off. I'm a Man, I'm 40 podcast. We'll return.
See ya.
All right, guys. See you next time.